a real estate and finance expert that goes to bat for you every day as a consumer advocate. Your host and the consumer quarterback, Brandon Rhymes.
All right, thanks for joining the show today. We appreciate you spending some time with us here, making you more street smart on the Consumer Quarterback Show, powered by the Platinum MVP team at Keller Williams Realty. And we have Representative Berny Jacques in the house, Florida House of Representatives, and a longtime friend of the Consumer Quarterback Show. He's going to give us a preview of this year's legislative session coming up here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Before we do, we'd like to feature one of our listings here at 2907 North Florida Avenue. This is a beautiful property listing, commercial property, large building, 12,000 square foot building, 7,200 square foot heated at 2907 North Florida Avenue in Tampa. You got two buildings on site. One is set up for a perfect showroom or place for your business. You also have offices up front, beautiful, elegant design with beautiful flooring there, air-conditioned space. Two separate buildings. So one of the buildings is currently rented out for $7,500 a month. Great opportunity to have a passive income built in to your mortgage payment. Ample parking, corner lot location, close to downtown Tampa, 2907 North Florida Avenue, one of our hot commercial listings right here in beautiful Tampa Bay. And you can see all of our listings at PlatinumCoastalElite.com. Check out PlatinumCoastalElite.com.
Yeah, I'm racing like left to go saving our ass overseas.
All right, Berny Jacques, welcome back in, sir.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for having me on.
Hey, my pleasure, man. So it's always good catching up with you, kind of previewing what's happening this year, what we have looking forward to. I know insurance has been a big issue in the state of Florida. I hear a lot of that, of course, in my real estate business. But what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, so insurance, property insurance specifically, is one of the top issues. I would say it's probably the top issue in the minds of Floridians. Certainly it is on the calls that we get from our office. And you're also seeing auto insurance, too, is creeping up there as well. So we're getting those complaints. I was encouraged to see, as part of the governor's proposed budget, he allocated a fund towards addressing property insurance. And so we're going to flesh that out this legislative session, which begins January 9th, and we'll be up there for 60 days working on behalf of the people of the state of Florida.
Nice. I like it. Yeah, the insurance issue is, what do you think's the underlying, where do you see that going over the next, because I've heard, we've had a couple different state reps on or, folks that we're talking about, it's be patient, they're saying, 18 months, 24 months.
Correct. So we didn't get into this mess overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight, right? So part of the reason why we're in this mess is there was a lot of excessive fraud in the system. Right. And so a lot of companies were just leaving Florida altogether. And mind you, Florida is already a state that it's already hard to insure because it's just the natural storm events that we have here. And so when you couple that with some man-made disasters, which is maybe some excessive litigation, some excessive claims that aren't really legit, companies are just packing up and leaving the state altogether. And people are getting their notices that they won't be renewed and so forth. And so a lot of people were left really on Citizens, which is the insurer of last resort. That's what it's supposed to be in law, but it's become the insurer of only resort to a lot of people. Yeah. And so Citizens is out of control as far as the amount of people who are on there. And there's not a competitive market. So when there's not a competitive market, prices obviously will not be the best. As we know, in a free enterprise system, when people are competing for your business, you're going to get better rates because your business is dependent on it. Yeah. But if there's only just a few insurers, there's really no incentive for people to compete for your business. So what we did a little over a year ago now, in 2022, in December, we did a special session addressing a lot of these issues that cause the situation that we're in today. But to your point, a lot of these reforms won't be felt until 18 months down from when we pass them. So hopefully sometime towards the end of this year, we're going to start seeing rates stabilize, because the point was to make this a competitive market again. So companies can start writing policies again and start competing for your business. And so prices will look better for Floridians. But in the meantime, we are growing impatient, and rightfully so. And a lot of my colleagues, including myself, are also growing impatient. And so we're looking at ways that we can add relief now. We did so not too long ago. We had a special session where we added more money into the My Safe Florida Home Program, which allows homeowners to fortify their homes. And there's matching grants funding from the state. And we've seen dramatic decreases in people's premiums when they have taken advantage of that program. So we replenished that program. There's more funds there. I'd encourage people to check that out. It's the My Safe Florida Home Program.
Yeah, I like that. We're talking with Representative Berny Jacques here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. I'm your host, Brandon Rhymes, and yeah, we're in this election year too now. Of course, national elections, and there's a lot of negativity. It just seems like you hear these different, rumors about attacks on power grid. I mean, you hear, the potential for even an assassination of former President Trump. What do you see happening not only nationally but also in the state of Florida if something like that, a major event, were to happen? Do we have redundancies built into our power grid, or how would that? What do you seem that would? How would that look like? In other words,
well, these are scary times, right? Yeah. And scary times calls for bold leadership and prepared leaders that will be up to the task if something like that were to occur. So we, as you know, in Florida, I mean, we have multiple utilities companies, and I've had the opportunity to speak to several of them about what is the status of the grid. How are we looking? Are we vulnerable, and so forth? And so that's something we'll be looking at during this legislative session. In sessions past, there has been measures that have been taken to strengthen our grid and to make sure that we're not susceptible to these type of attacks. But certainly, I mean, we've come a long way, and it's not just about a man-made event, to cripple our society. And in the case of attacking the grid. But our grid is also important because, again, it comes the fall, we have hurricane season, right? Mm-hmm. And so the power is going to go down and so forth. And so in a way, Florida has had training in getting power up and making sure that our grid is fortified, because we know it's so important to our residents to get power back once a storm hits. And so we're prepared in a way because of natural disasters that a lot of other places may not be once it's a man-made disaster that's intentionally going after that grid. But there's always more we can do, and we'll be looking at that.
Right. Yeah, especially with the CCP, just so many different things happening there. Let's talk a little bit about. Let's stay local first, and then I want to go to the border. Any other local updates, Pinellas County updates, or Florida updates that you think we should talk about?
Sure. When it comes to the session, we'll be proposing certain bills, putting some bills forward. In fact, I filed several bills now. One of which concerns election integrity and election security. Actually, that was the first bill that I filed. And the bill does simply two things. Number one, it bans any foreign-made machines and software in our elections. So Amen. None of our election machines can be made by these foreign companies, nor the software developed by foreigners and foreign-owned companies. And it also allows local supervisor of elections, if they so wish, to do hand counting at the precinct level, a method that many point to that might be more accurate and is not hackable. Right. And so this will give the flexibility for local supervisor of elections to count ballots through that method. Currently, they have to use the machines, and we just want to say they may choose that other option as well, because we are about election integrity. We've come a long way in our state. We used to be the laughing stock in 2000, right?
I remember that.
And then just as recent as 2018, we had those razor-thin margins. I mean, Governor DeSantis barely beat Gillum that first time, which is very scary when you think about who Gillum is.
How would that have been? That would
a disaster,
terrible.
Especially during COVID times. I mean, we would have been under a tyranny. Right, but that race was close, and the Governor Scott race running for Senate was close, and we actually lost a Commissioner of Agriculture race. The guy won on election night. His name is Matt Caldwell. He won on election night, Republican, and then Broward and Palm Beach were finding new ballots, and the guy loses in all these recounts, and then we had Nikki Fried. That's how Nikki Fried came about. So it wasn't that long ago that we had a mess in our elections, but under the leadership of Governor DeSantis, we've implemented strong measures. There's an Office of Election Crimes and Security now that goes after people who cheated in our elections and holds them accountable and prosecutes them.
Great.
We've banned all the ballot harvesting. We've banned unsupervised drop boxes, and we've strengthened our voter ID. And this measure that I'm trying to push forward will only build upon what we've done, because the job is not over yet. We can only be more secure. So that's something you need to watch out for this legislative session that we're trying to push forward.
Wow, that's good work, Bernie. Berny Jacques here on the Consumer Quarterback Show. Catherine Engelbrecht just had a big win up in Georgia, too. It was huge. They had they were going after the voter rolls and saying, hey, look, they found 364,000 voter rolls. It was a 3-year knockdown, drag-out fight. And Mark Elias brought his team with Stacey Abrams, and they fought it out. out. And big, huge win for the Patriot True the Vote, Catherine Engelbrecht and her team. I'm going to talk about that in the next segment with Alex. But I want to shift gears to the southern border. As you know, the Speaker of the House and some other Republicans were down on the border yesterday. Here's a quick clip, and then we'll comment on it.
House Speaker Mike Johnson took a delegation of over 60 congressmen down to the southern border on Wednesday to see it for themselves.
The group is trying to pressure President Biden to secure the southern border as a record 300,000 illegals crossed into the U.S. from Mexico in December alone. Daily Wire investigative reporter Mairead Elordi is here with more. So, Mairead, tell us about this move by Speaker Johnson.
Hi, Georgia. Right. So Speaker Mike Johnson and this group of 64 members of Congress visited Eagle Pass, Texas, which has been overwhelmed with illegal migrants for many months. They held a press conference where they urged the Biden administration to reinstate the Remain in Mexico policy. That was a Trump.
For sake of time, Remain in policy or Mexico policy, that needs to come back.
Absolutely.
They need to stop suing Governor Abbott and state of Texas for protecting their own homeland. What's your thoughts?
Absolutely. We need to bring back Remain in Mexico. We need to stop getting in the way of states that are trying to do right by their own residents, by their own citizens. And Texas is right in the thick of it. They're right there in the trenches, and kudos to them for doing everything that they can. And in Florida, we've been doing similar things. As you know, last session, I was one of the sponsors of the bill that cracked down on illegal immigration here in the state of Florida. What we did in Florida was simple. We can't control totally what Biden is doing with his open borders, but certainly there's things that we can do to make sure Florida is not a magnet for all this illegal behavior. So one of the things that we did is we increased the penalties for human smuggling of illegals into our state. Before, the most you can get is a basic third-degree felony, and now we've upped it to where if you're smuggling anyone who's a minor, who's an illegal, that's an automatic second-degree felony, which is punishable by up to 15 years in prison.
Wow.
If you have 5 or more individuals with you, same thing. It's a second-degree felony. We've invalidated all of these driver's licenses that have been issued to illegal aliens in other states. Some of these blue states, blue municipalities, they're giving them driver's licenses. They know they're illegal.
Wow.
So if they come here to the state of Florida, we're not going to recognize that. It would be as if they're driving without a license. And we have also prevented any local government here in the state of Florida from issuing these community IDs that you see some of these places are doing for illegal aliens, because we want to make sure that we want to crack down. The big part of the bill is that we implemented mandatory e-verify, not only for the public sector, but now private sector employers have to abide by that as well. Because one of the things that's drawn a lot of these folks here, it's not just the lawless Marxist Democrats, but some of the big corporations want the cheap labor.
Right.
And so now we're going to impose the same measures that state governments have had to go by for several years now. With also a mandate on now private employers to make sure that the people that they're hiring go through and are checked through the system, through the e-verify system, that they are able and allowed and legal to work here in the state of Florida. I think that will mitigate a lot of that from coming here to Florida. But certainly we need to get the border under control, because they shouldn't be here in the first place. It's not only an issue about wages, but it's also a national security issue. When you see the people on the terror watch list that have been caught, you have people who come here, they commit crimes. We lost a deputy in Pinellas County, a couple years ago, not that long ago, at the hands of an illegal who was working on a construction site, had no business being here. He had just been deported the year before, made his way right back across the open Biden borders, only to take the life of one of our own, a brave and finest, Deputy Hartwick. So this is serious. This is serious for me, and we're going to continue to look at ways. Stay tuned this legislative session. We're going to look at other ways to strengthen our immigration laws here in the state of Florida to push back what is happening at the southern border, which is a total invasion and a travesty.
Yeah, it really is. The fentanyl, the MS-13 gang activity, all of the different, trafficking as well, that's happened. So, Berny Jacques, thanks for coming in, a true patriot and a great American success story as well, man.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. For everyone who want to follow our work, go to Berny4Florida.com. That's Berny, FOR, Florida.com. Thank you, and God bless.
Berny4Florida.com. Representative Berny Jacques, thanks again. Appreciate you coming in.
You got it.
All right, taking a quick break. Coming back here, we got Alex Lima, Black Belt Fitness and Martial Arts. More local stories, also self-defense, personal training, and protection as well, protecting yourself in the home front, right here on the Consumer Quarterback Show, consumerqb.com.
Thanks for listening to my daddy's show.
All right,
Please make sure to send him all of your real estate deals.